Namaste, Dhanava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 10, Text 20. Nashike nirabhidyetam dadhuyati nabhasvati tatra vayor gandhavaho grano nasi jigrakshata. Thereafter, when the Supreme Purusha desired to smell odors, the nostrils and respiration were generated. The nasal instrument and odors came into existence, and the controlling deity of air carrying smell also became manifested. Purport. The nasal instrument, odor, and the controlling deity of air, smelling, etc., all became manifested simultaneously when the Lord desired to smell. The Vedic mantras confirm this statement in the Upanishads, statement that everything is first desired by the Supreme before the subordinate living entity can act upon it. The living entity can see only when the Lord sees. The living entity can smell when the Lord smells, and so on. The idea is that the living entity cannot do anything independently. He can simply think of doing something independently, but he cannot act independently. This independence in thinking is there by the grace of the Lord. But the thinking can be given shape by the grace of the Lord. And therefore, the common saying is that man proposes and God disposes. The whole explanation is on the subject of the absolute dependence of the living entities and the absolute independence of the Supreme Lord. Less intelligent persons claiming to be on an equal level with God must first prove themselves to be absolute and independent, and then they must substantiate their claim to being one with God. Text 21. Yadhatmani nirhalokam atmanam chadidrikshata nirbhinehya shinhitasya jyotis chakshur gunha graha. Thus, when everything existed in darkness, the Lord desired to see himself and all that was created. Then the eyes illuminating God, the illuminating God's Son, the power of vision, and the object of sight all became manifested. Purport. The universe is by nature dense darkness, and therefore the total creation is called tamas, or darkness. The night is the real feature of the universe, for then one cannot see anything, including oneself. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, first desired to see himself and all the creation as well, and thus the sun became manifested. The power of vision for all living entities became possible, and the objects of vision were also manifested. This means that the whole phenomenal world became visible after the creation of the sun. Dhanava Pranam Om Devi.
Dhanavad Krishna Keso Prabhu.
धन्यवाद प्रणाम प्रभु जी धन्यवाद
Jai. Dhanava Pranam Raja Gopal Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Text 22. Bodhyamanasya rishi bir atmanas taj jigrikshata karano cha nirvidyetam dishashrotram gunha graha. By development of the desire of the great sages to know, The ears, the power of hearing, and the controlling deity of hearing, and the objects of hearing became manifested. The great sages desired to hear about the self. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, by advancement of knowledge, one should try to know about the Supreme Lord, the summum bonum of everything. Knowledge does not mean knowledge only of the laws of nature or physical knowledge, which are working by the direction of the Lord. The scientists are eager to hear about the physical laws working in material nature. They are eager to hear through the medium of radio and television about things taking place far away from them on other planets. But they should know that the power of hearing and the instruments for hearing were given to them by the Lord for hearing about the self or about the Lord. Unfortunately, the power of hearing is misused in the hearing the vibrations of mundane affairs. The great sages were interested in hearing about the Lord through Vedic knowledge and nothing more. That is the beginning of oral reception of knowledge. Text 23. Rastuno mridu katinya lagu gurvashno sitatam jigrakshatas tvam nirbina tasyam roma mahiruha tatra chantar bahirvatas tvachalabda gunovrita. When there was a desire to perceive the physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, hardness, warmth, cold, lightness, and heaviness, the background of sensation, the skin pores, the hairs on the body and their controlling deities, the trees, were generated. Within and outside the skin is a covering of air through which sense perception became prominent. Purport. The physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, are subjects of sense perception, and thus physical knowledge is the subject matter of touch sensation. One can measure the temperature of matter by touching with the hand, and one can measure the weight of an object by lifting it with the hand, and thus estimate its heaviness or lightness. The skin pores, and the hairs on the body are all interdependent with the touch sensation. The air blowing within and outside the skin is also an object of sense perception. This sense perception is also a source of knowledge, and therefore it is suggested here that the physical or physiological knowledge is subordinate to the knowledge of the self, as above mentioned. Knowledge of self can expand to the knowledge of phenomena, but the physical knowledge cannot lead to knowledge of the self. There is, however, an intimate relation between the hairs on the body and the vegetation on the body of the earth. The vegetables are nourishment for the skin, both as food and medicine, as stated in the third canto. Tvacham masya vinirbinam vivishurdishnyam asodihi. Text 24. Hastorura hatustasya nana karma chikirshaya tayostu balavan indra adhanam ubhayasrayam. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Purport. In every item, we can note with profit that the sense organs of a living entity are never independent at any stage. The Lord is known as the Lord of the senses, Rishikesh. Thus, the sense organs of the living entities are manifested by the will of the Lord, and each organ is controlled by a certain type of demigod. No one, therefore, can claim any proprietorship of the senses. The living entity is controlled by the senses are controlled by the demigods, and the demigods are the servants of the Supreme Lord. That is the arrangement in the system of creation. The whole thing is controlled ultimately by the Supreme Lord, and there is no independence either of the material nature or of the living entity. The illusioned living entity who claims to be the Lord of his senses is under the clutches of the external energy of the Lord. As long as a living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood as under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord. And there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion or Maya, however much one may declare himself a liberated soul. Text 25. Gatim jigishata pado rururhate bikamikam padbyam yagyasvayam havyam karmabi kriyate nrubi. Thereupon, because of his desiring to control movement, his legs became manifested, and from the legs the controlling deity named Vishnu was generated. By his personal supervision of this act, all varieties of human being are busily engaged in dutiful occupational sacrifice. Purport. Every human being is engaged in this particular occupational duty, and such activities are visible as men go hither and thither. This is very prominently visible in big cities of the world. People are going all over the cities with great concern from one place to another. This movement is not limited only to the cities, but is also visible outside the cities from one place to another, or from one city to another, by different means of vehicles. Men are moving by cars and rails on the roads, by subways within the earth, and by planes in the sky for the purpose of business success. But in all these movements, the real purpose is to earn wealth for comfortable life. For this comfortable life, the scientist is engaged, the artist is engaged, the engineer is engaged, the technician is engaged, all in different branches of human activity. But they do not know how to make the activities purposeful to fulfill the mission of human life. Because they do not know this secret, all their activities are targeted towards the goal of sense gratification without control. And therefore, by all this business, they are unknowingly entering into the deep regions of darkness. Because they have been captivated by the external energy of the Supreme Lord, they have completely forgotten the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And thus they have taken it for granted that this life, as presently manifested under the conditions of material nature, is all in all for enjoying the highest amount of sense gratification. But such a wrong conception of life cannot give anyone the desired peace of mind. And thus, in spite of all advancement in knowledge by use of resources of nature, no one is happy in this material civilization. The secret is that at every step, they should try to execute sacrifices toward the path of world peace. And Bhagavad Gita 18.45 through 46 also advises the same secret in the following verses. Svesve karman yabir yata samshidham labate nara svakarma nirata siddhim yata vindati tachtrinu yata pravrityabhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam svakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. The Lord said to Arjuna, just hear from me how one can attain the highest perfection in life, simply by discharging his specified occupational duty. Man can attain the highest perfection of life by worshiping the Supreme Lord, and by performing sacrifice for the sake of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is all-pervading, and by whose control every living being acquires his desired facilities, according to his personal propensity. There is no harm in having different propensities in life, because every human being is proportionately independent to chalk out the plan of his life by different occupations. But one should make it a point in his life to know perfectly well that he is not independent absolutely. One is certainly under the control of the Supreme Lord and under different agencies. Knowing this, one should make it a point that by his work and by the result of his labor, he serves the Supreme Lord as prescribed. By the authorities expert in transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. For performing such occupational duties of life, the leg is the most important instrument of the body, because without the help of the legs, one cannot move from one place to another. And therefore the Lord has special control over the legs of all human beings, which are meant for performing yagyas. Thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 26 on Wednesday. Are there any comments or anything the devotees would like to say?
Dandavats Prabhuji.
Dhanyavad.
So according to these slokas, so in our body, every organ is controlled by some demigod or some god.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay. So suppose there is no functioning of some organ, it means that demigod is like opposite to us. Like how we can decide that one? Any idea on that?
Yeah. So everything in the material sphere, which is where the demigods are operating, even as the controlling deities of the senses and different body parts. Everything in the material world is controlled by guna and karma. So as a controlling deity, just like somebody who is in charge of electricity, shutting lights off or turning them on, either action is still the activity of a controller, whether the power is on or off. And that controller can turn the power on if it's off, and if it's on, they can turn it off. So if somebody is blind, the controlling deity of the eyes, I think they said, is Agni Dev, the fire god.
Yes.
So that is meaning that is what the controlling deity is doing for our particular circumstances of karma and guna. And we also find cases where vision can be restored to people.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So again, we can understand that as part of guna and karma. It can come, it can go. And of course, it's all ultimately happening by the will of the Lord, not by of Supreme Lord. Even the demigods are being following the orders of Lord Vishnu.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vishwambar Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji. Dandavat Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad.
Jai. Jai, Prabhu. How is our Puri Maharaj? How are you?
He's okay.
Mm.
We're okay as long as we have some service. We're very happy.
Yep. Very nice, Prabhu.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
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 Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Parvat Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham, Nrsimhapuri Dham, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Baladev Subhadra
Jai.
Jagannath Ju Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham
Jai.
Ki Jai. Kiri
Jai.
Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai. Tulsi
Jai.
Devi, Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Harinam
Jai.
Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Jai Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Jai
Jai.
Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya
Jai.
Saraswat Institute Ki Jai. Shri
Jai.
Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai.
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 Sama Bhakti Vedarinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled
Jai.
devotees. All glories to the worldwide devotees Ki Jai. Jai
Jai.
Srimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Vishwambar Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Keshav
श्रीपाद
Prabhu
कृष्ण
ki
केशव
jai.
प्रभु की जय.
Jai, jai.
धन्यवाद प्रणाम.
Hare
And
Krishna.
thank you all.
Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Prabhu.
All.